Okay, I have never made a video like this before, but I just wanted to talk about something real quick. I know that there are a ton of videos out on YouTube right now that are talking about the same thing. I'm going to try and bring up my own personal opinions that I don't think have been stated online. A lot of these videos are bashing Scott Gimple and saying how, like, he's ruined the show, and while I don't quite necessarily disagree with all of their points, that has been done to death, and I can't add anything on that. People are claiming that since he has joined the show is kind of going down the toilet. I don't think the show has gone down the toilet. I still personally love the show. I'm still a little bit shocked and hurt by what happened, I guess, during the mid-season finale. Unfortunately, Carl was revealed to have been bitten on the stomach, and while he's not dead yet, his death is coming. My initial thought was that Carl was being killed off the show because Chandler had kind of been wanting to leave for a little bit. He's getting older, it's time for him to go to college, and that was my understanding, that he was thinking about trying to balance The Walking Dead in college. Later, I'm finding out that it wasn't Chandler's choice at all, that it was Scott's idea. And I'm not going to get into, again, I'm not getting into Scott. To me, like, his reasoning doesn't make sense. I have this article pulled up here. Okay, and this is spoilers for the end of All Out War. I'm just, disclaimer now, this is Chandler straight up says how All Out War ends in the comics. So if you don't want to know, leave. What did Scott say was his reasoning for doing it? Because contrary to what some fans think, he does not kill main characters lightly. He says his reasoning behind it was that in the comics after All Out War, Negan gets taken prisoner, so to figure out a way to make Rick not want to kill Negan would be to have Carl see things from a different perspective and try and push those ideals onto Rick. What he's saying is, to Gimple, there is like a plot hole almost in the comics of how Rick goes from wanting to kill Negan to deciding not to kill him and put him in the prison at Alexandria. And while I can say kind of, I never questioned it when I read it, but I mean, I haven't read it in so long. But if you want to argue that there is a plot hole there, fine. What Gimple did by having Carl fix it is he almost created or moved that problem to Carl, because he's saying that Carl now wants, he's trying to teach Rick all that he's learned. We never saw that transition in Carl. I personally don't know where that came from. As much as I love Carl, I've been kind of confused all season as to where this came from. At the end of last season, he went after Negan, tried to kill him, and all that. After that, in the second half of season 7, he still wanted Negan dead. So Scott is saying that he wanted Rick to have a reason to not kill Negan, but then in the process of trying to create that, he never gave Carl a reason to not want to kill Negan. Everyone saw how Rick reacted both times Carl got shot, when he got shot in the stomach and when he got shot in the eye. Rick did not take it very well. So to me, having Carl's death be the thing that motivates him to not want to kill Negan seems very out of character for Rick. However, I do feel like there is a way that a death could have motivated Rick to this conclusion. And I thought that they were setting it up like that for the past couple seasons. If Scott wanted to bridge the gap between Rick wanting to kill Negan and wanting to keep him alive, I think the one character that would have made the most sense for death is Morgan. A lot of people are saying that it should have been Daryl because it would have explained his impulsive behavior and why he wanted to just destroy the sanctuary, because he just wanted to take care of it while he still had time. I get that. But it would have made so much more sense to have Morgan. And I'm not saying the Morgan now. I'm talking season 6 Morgan. When he showed up and he was the whole all life is precious Morgan. Even beginning season 7 Morgan would have worked. So I'm not saying it has to be the Morgan where he's like, you can't kill anybody at all. But prior to Benjamin's death, he was still, we need to not just be trigger happy and try and kill everybody here. Keeping that Morgan and then having him die trying to convince Rick all life is precious. That was his message. and then he dies, wouldn't it be more fitting for Rick to try and honor Morgan by keeping Negan alive and putting him in the cell that Morgan built? That's why I thought that was the route they were going, is because Morgan's the one who built the cell in the first place. And people could say, like, oh, well, Morgan's not big enough of a character or all this stuff. Morgan's death, regardless of how Rick feels about Morgan at any point, Morgan's death will affect Rick emotionally. It will deeply impact him emotionally because Morgan is the one who found him in the beginning. Morgan saved him, and that's how Rick was able to get his family. That will always be a part of Rick. So when Morgan dies, Rick will feel that. No matter where Morgan stands as a character, Rick will be emotionally impacted by Morgan's death. To me, that just would have made more sense. There's another comment that he makes in the same interview. They're asking him about the comics, and he was saying a lot of people would say the comics are just as much about Carl as Rick, and that we may be seeing that transfer of power from father to son there, which we will now not see with the TV show. That has to make the biggest change from the comic, right? And Chandler Riggs says, absolutely, especially with how much Robert Kirkman values Carl's character, at least in the comics. Both Robert Kirkman and AMC has said they have an end game in mind. From reading the comics, I feel like Robert Kirkman is writing The Walking Dead with Carl as the end game. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel when I'm reading these comics. AMC, on the other hand, has said, you know, we have an end game, like we've planned up into season 20, and so it's clear to them they don't value Carl's character as much as Robert does. Which, if they don't want to go that route, that's fine, but you have to be careful, because if Robert Kirkman's version is better, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. I honestly, I can't tell you what they were thinking. You know, the end of season 4 was probably the first real cliffhanger The Walking Dead had ever done. And the internet kind of freaked out. The writers of The Walking Dead have been like, oh, we ended on a cliffhanger. The internet freaked out. And then when we came back for season 5, The Walking Dead broke viewing records on television. So all we have to do is end it with a cliffhanger every single time, regardless of what it does to the story. Personally, I think that Carl didn't have to be motivated by the bite and almost dying to reach this point to save everybody in Alexandria. To me, having Judith be behind that wall is enough motivation for Carl to say, this is what we're doing, and I will sacrifice myself for my little sister and for everybody here and for Michonne. Because that can be what Carl has learned. That his life is not more important than everybody else in Alexandria. That's a great character arc. A lot of people are saying that, you know, they're done with the show. I'm not going to be done with the show. That's so petty. And if you're the one saying that, I'm sorry, you know, nothing against you. But if you're serious about actually quitting watching the show, then that's fine. But if you're just saying that because you're bitter, it's kind of annoying. Anyway, just to end on a little happy, funny note, my brother Mitch stopped watching The Walking Dead after season 3, and he hated Carl so much, and he refuses to believe me when I say that Carl's character has grown so much since season 2. Anytime I mention watching The Walking Dead, Mitch goes, ugh, has Carl died yet? So, right after I finished recording my reaction video, I texted Mitch, and I said, you'd be really happy with The Walking Dead right now. And then his words are, I have waited 1,000 years for this day. The Lord has heard my cry and answered with justice from his mighty hand. So, Mitch is a jerk. And we can laugh about it, because Carl is not real, so it's okay to laugh about his death. And if laughing keeps me from crying, then why not? So, I will see you later for more Walking Dead in February. Rest in peace, Carl.